Look at America. We are 5% of the world's population. We consume 80% of the world's opioids.
Yeah.
Astonishing.
Well, yeah, it is astonishing. Let's talk about some of the facts, because this opioid crisis, I mean, in this political climate, it seems to be a major crisis, but it's been a crisis
Well,
for
I always
decades
say,
and
is it a
decades.
crisis, or do we just accept it as the norm now? We keep using the word crisis. We don't do anything about it. 122,000 people died of drug overdoses in 2023. If
Right.
122,000 people died of anything, it would be the top priority to stop. This is the stigma of addiction. They do it to themselves, or
Right.
it's accidental. The Matthew Perry stuff. I'm shocked by the Matthew Perry stuff, but I shouldn't be. I see it all the time. Every time a celebrity dies, Tom Sizemore passed away last year, and it was
Yeah.
the same thing. It's like, how could this happen? And trying to find who's to blame. Like, it's been going on for 20 years. It's like a slow car chase, like
Well, with the Matthew Perry thing, I mean, it seems, it highlights the ongoing struggles, even after years of sobriety, of how many people, I mean, he wrote a book. He had just come out with a book talking about getting sober after all these years,
I
and
know.
that was clearly hiding it still. So, I mean, it just shows you how hard it is.
Let's talk about the hiding it. Like, what else are they supposed to do? You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
At a certain point, when you've declared yourself or you've been labeled an addict and you've gone to treatment and you're in the public, you're going to lie. You know what I mean? When you have a difficult time, there's very few people that will just say, "Yep, I screwed up again."
But Bob,
You know
don't
what I
you
mean?
agree? You don't have to be in the public eye. It could be within your family. You said,
Yeah.
yes, okay, you spent all this money on
But
rehab. I'm better. And then you're embarrassed or shamed to say that it's happening again.
that's what I'm saying. Everybody knows that you're labeling yourself an addict and you sought treatment, and now you've screwed up.
Right.
We're not a very forgiving society, and I think addicts feel that at their core, right?
Right. I
And
want to talk
so,
about some of the numbers, though. Like the
yeah,
overdose deaths, you said was 122,000. I had, around then. Opioids were involved in 75%
yeah.
of those deaths. And then explain what an opioid is.
So opioids are, well, it used to be derivative of poppies and heroin, the typical prescription drugs, Norcos, Vicodins, that they don't really have anymore. Then it became OxyContin, and now it's illicit fentanyl. Fentanyl is not really fentanyl's in a class of its own. It's 50 times stronger than most opioids. Most opioids are opiate based and morphine based, and fentanyl is not. It's all man-made chemicals.
Right.
So fentanyl is probably the contributor of half those deaths.
Well, I have it right here. Fentanyl is 70% of overdoses.
There you go.
And prescription opioids are 30% of.
And going down because there's not a lot of prescription opioids available.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So fentanyl is taken over. I told Drew this like 10 years ago, or I don't even, maybe longer. I was reading a New Yorker article about this Chinese middle manager of fentanyl distribution. This before we were aware of it. And you could order $4,000 worth of fentanyl from a Chinese factory, and this has got the middleman. It would be delivered by Amazon to your door. This is before all the awareness about fentanyl. $4,000 would make $10 million worth of product on the street. And when I read the paragraph like 4 times. $4,000 investment, $10 million. I was like, oh my God. And I told you this, like, oh my God, there's a drug. I don't know what it is, but for $4,000, you can make $10 million worth of product.
Yeah.
That's what you're seeing. It's so inexpensive. It replaces heroin on the market. It replaces OxyContin on the market. It replaces everything on the market. It blocks out the sun in the profits that it makes. So all the cartels in Mexico, that's what they're providing is fentanyl. And
but explain to me why the average everyday person isn't scared of this recreational use of cocaine or whatever, which is laced with fentanyl. I mean, you could not be an addict. You can try it once, and that can be the one time you die, which is
especially
terrifying.
kids. Well, the reason why, I mean, I like the absolute truth, no matter how ugly it is. We're a society that thinks pills are safe.
Mm.
The medical profession and the pharmaceutical industry have not done a good enough job to tell Americans, hey, there's a sheet that comes in the box that tells you all the side effects that could happen to you. Right? You know, they make it so small you can't read it. But at the end of a commercial for a prescription drug, it'll say, could cause sterilization, vomiting, or death. No one listens to that. That means it's dangerous.
Right.
That means even Lexapro used incorrectly, even aspirin can be dangerous.
Things that you have in your medicine cabinet right now. Yeah. And especially when you mix them, right? I mean, up until years, I mean, now it's like a one take. You can just take fentanyl or cocaine and you're done.
But I'm going to tell you why people take it and die is because we make it seem like these dangerous drugs, when misused, are safe. And so our children believe they're safe. Even though we have child-proof caps on everything, that means a child, if he gets it, could die.
Right.
It's dangerous. Drugs are dangerous.
But it's no longer just about mixing, you know, doing the uppers during the day. And for ADHD, let's say you have it in your prescription cabinet, and then at night you're taking the Ambien to go to sleep, and then you're mixing it with alcohol. I mean, explain the dangers of mixing too.
But I just want to get really across this point. So kids believe that pills are safe. Mm-hmm. We have not done a good job enough of saying how dangerous prescription drugs are. Even when you get them from a doctor, even for good reason, they are dangerous.
Right.
So when kids go to a party and they see a pill rather than a powder or a joint, right? We've demonized a lot of drugs and drug users. So they're scared of powders, scared of pot, but they're not scared of pills. So they ingest a pill that they're told is okay, that the person who's having the party, that it's Xanax. It's not Xanax, it's fentanyl-laced Xanax, and they die. You see this time and time again of 14, 15-year-old girls in particular. I live in Claremont, California. That's like Mayberry, RFD. There's been 4 deaths here in a year of little kids because they think that pill is safe. Okay, well, I went to a party and a pill is safe. So I've got this message out all wherever I go, like pills are not safe. They're not.
How do we talk to kids about, you know, I remember when we were younger, we would see those public service announcement commercials on TV, and it's like, this is your brain. This is your brain.
Yeah, it's kind of dramatic.
Yeah. But, you know, my daughter's 12. I know she came home last year in 6th grade and said she had seen 2 kids in her class vaping in the bathroom, which is crazy. And it's kind of like, it starts so early now. How do you tell them it's not cool when they're like, Mom, you're not cool? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is the message we give them?
Well, you have to give them pointers. I have a 13-year-old son and all his friends, and we have an adopted son too. And all their friends, I tell them, like, you just got to have something to say. Right? Because you're getting pressured. They're going to get pressured because that insecurity in adolescence, if somebody doesn't want to do something, they tend to try to come get that person to do it. It's just a built-in trait of teenagers. You have to have something to say. And all you have to say is, my mom and dad are drug addicts and I've seen what it's like. Please don't. You have to say something to them that will stop the pressure in its tracks, right? Mm-hmm. You can say, my dad's friend died of drugs, and I've coached my son that he can talk about Kurt Cobain or he can talk about whoever that will get the message across. My dad works in addiction. Little Peep died. Extension died. Little Peep and Juice WRLD died of drugs. These are heroes to them, right? Little Peep's the best example. The kid was like 21 years old. He was a genius musician, and he was taking Xanax after Xanax on YouTube. They like broadcasting live, taking drugs on YouTube, and YouTube obviously doesn't have any filter to stop that. Mm-hmm. And so this idea that we have to give them tools of what to say when they're being peer pressured. I really believe that. Yeah. Right. And so we'd be honest about it. Like, I think that we sanitize things too much for our kids. And I always say, well, what age are we going to start to tell them the truth? And I know that I was lied to my whole life until I was 13. So disillusioning, right? It turned out that my parents that I thought were my parents weren't my parents. They were my grandparents. And my middle sister was my mother. Oh my God. You know what I mean? Like Chinatown. So all that time, I remember thinking, like, who knew this? So, and I would go back in my memory of conversations about this with either my sisters or family or my aunt. They all knew. So they were all lying to me my whole life. And so I'm a big proponent of like, tell your kids the truth that they could handle in the moment. I have an 8-year-old. She knows about drugs. She doesn't know the extent that the 13-year-old does, but she knows about it.
Right.
Like, and her new thing is I'm introducing her to music all the time. And last night she wanted to hear punk rock and the Sex Pistols, and we were playing the Sex Pistols. And she said, she knew, she goes, did one of these guys die of drugs? And I was like, yeah, they did. Sid Vicious did. But so to make our kids aware that drugs are dangerous, you can live a full and happy and fun-free, carefree life without doing them. That's another important thing. I think sobriety looks kind of boring to teenagers, right?
Yeah.
I ain't boring. To me, AA says this is a bridge back to the real world. What does that mean? Go live your life, don't just sit in an AA meeting talking about 20 years ago. Go live and seize the day.